All right, so a couple of days ago, there was a clip that went massively viral over on Twitter, which was basically just a perfect insight into how little our government officials actually care about the rotten corruption that goes on within the halls of Congress. So it was posted here by Unusual Whales. I mean, you can see here it got like 4.1 million views on Twitter. Maybe Twitter's gassing the numbers there a little bit, but he says this is inexcusable. A truly wild moment yesterday from the House Financial Services Committee, where they laugh about the revolving door from Congress to the banks. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into this clip here, and then I'll give you guys a little bit of my thoughts on it. This is just an absolutely wild moment here.
The gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Hollingsworth, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Well, good afternoon. I'm excited to be here with each of you. Before I get started on my questions, Mr. Moynihan, I wanted to let you know, Saruthi, raise your hand, Saruthi. She has been my team member for a couple of years now, but on Monday, she becomes a Bank of America team member, about which she is very, very excited. So I hope you'll take good care of her and know and recognize the talent that she has shown already in our office. I'm sure she'll do the same at Bank of America.
We will do that, and her father already works for us, so he'll take care of it.
You should have called us.
Well, good. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to chat about some of these issues today. What I'm really interested in is the state of the economy.
Okay, so, I mean, you see it right there, right? They're laughing about this, okay? This guy, I mean, the way that he responded and brought up this line of questioning, I almost thought that he was going to turn around and make sort of like a based point about how, you know, horrifically corrupt it is that you have somebody who is sitting in the Financial Services Committee who is then going and turning around and getting a job with Bank of America, okay, the people who she is responsible within Congress for regulating and keeping in check, basically. I thought he was going to turn it around and like make some point about the revolving door in politics, but no, he just sits back and he like has a good laugh with these Bank of America CEOs that are sitting in front of him. Absolutely fucking wild. I mean, again, you're talking about the Financial Services Committee, all right? And you're describing a situation where you're asking these bank executives, or specifically Bank of America, to take good care of your friend who's apparently done phenomenal work within the Financial Services Committee, and she's going and getting a job with the same corporations who she was just supposed to be regulating. I mean, it's like the most surface level corruption that you could possibly imagine. I mean, this would be only comparable to a type of situation, you know, where if you were to have, say, the Senate Energy Committee chair be led by somebody who has personal investments in the fossil fuel industry. Oh, fuck, wait, that's literally happening right now with Joe Manchin. I mean, seriously, this is the type of corruption that is just across the board considered so normal within our government that people don't even blink twice at it, that they will willingly bring this up in a congressional hearing, okay, a public hearing that their own constituents are supposedly going to be able to see, and they just bring it up like this is completely normal. This is rank corruption, okay? This is what we call the revolving door of DC politics. And so just a little bit more information on that here from Open Secrets. I'll link this down below. They have this entire like database that they put together to get into some of it. They feature up here, of course, another perfect example of this with Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, the head of the Pentagon. And I mean, I've talked about this before on this channel. He basically, after being one of the top generals within the United States military, went and got a very cozy job as a board member on Raytheon, okay, a weapons manufacturer who makes billions of dollars a year by selling weapons of war and profiting off of war within this country and around the world. And he went and sat on the board of Raytheon and then turned around and came back to the government and is now leading the fucking Pentagon. Okay, so what do you think that's going to do to his incentives, his internal calculations about his strategy, or you know, who should maybe get weapons deals or weapons contracts, or whether or not we should continue with a hawkish approach to any given foreign policy issue? I mean, the answer is very clear and apparent, right? So he got $1 million payout when he was leaving Raytheon. All right, so this is the type of shit that we're talking about. Again, it goes to the highest levels of our government, the head of the Pentagon, individual members of Congress. I mean, they pointed out down here, saying revolving door factoid, there are 388 former members of Congress who now lobby and that are in this database that they put together. So that's probably not even the entirety of the situation that we're describing here. You also have to talk about, you know, congressional staffers and other people who just work tangentially within positions of government, but aren't necessarily in high-level positions of power. I mean, this is what we're talking about here. And this is just like barely scratching the surface in terms of what U.S. government corruption actually looks like right now. I mean, we have a situation where not only do you have politicians who will go into Congress, they use a lot of donations that are from a lot of these same corporations. They then get elected into Congress with that corporate money, and then they turn around and they legislate on behalf of the bottom line, on behalf of the financial interests of these capitalists that just funneled money into their campaigns. But that's not even enough for them. You also have this, again, revolving door concept where some of those same members of Congress will then be banking on, and no pun intended in this context, but they will be banking on getting some cozy job at some corporation who either funneled money into their campaign or who they acted on behalf of while they were legislating in Congress. Some of them, again, even sit in these committee positions, right? Sitting on the Financial Services Committee, sitting on the Armed Services Committee, sitting on the Energy Committee, while having direct conflicts of interest. I mean, in this case, it was just a revolving door type of situation as a conflict of interest. But again, you have somebody like Joe Manchin who is sitting as the chair, okay, the chair of the Senate Energy Committee. And this motherfucker has direct investments in the fossil fuel industry. He has a direct financial incentive to his own benefit to perpetuate the use of fossil fuels. What do you think that's going to do to his incentives in terms of tackling climate change, for example? I mean, we've seen this on full display. I've been covering it relentlessly on this channel, right? You guys understand the corruption of somebody like Joe Manchin. He's chairing the Senate Energy Committee. That's who Democrats decided would be, a good person to put in that position. Completely fucking ridiculous. Again, Lloyd Austin, another perfect example. But this goes across the board. And not only do you have this revolving door, not only do you have the campaign contributions from corporate America, from the billionaire class, through these dark money PACs as well. There were a couple different stories that came out recently where, Saudi Arabia is now getting involved in direct lobbying to the tune of like $100 million being funneled into Republican campaign coffers. Billions and billions of dollars that we are talking about here. But it's not even just the revolving door and the campaign contributions. It's also the fact that they have personal investments, right? Joe Manchin is one example because, he passed on his dirty coal company in West Virginia to his son. And apparently that counts as like disinvestment or something, or not having a conflict of interest. Completely ridiculous. But on top of those other factors that we were just talking about, you also have shit like, people on the Armed Services Committee. And I covered this on my channel a couple weeks ago. Multiple members sitting on the Armed Services Committee, the people who have the most impact in the Senate in terms of where our government spending on our military is going to be directed. And almost all of them, or a huge bulk of them, have investments in stocks in those same weapons manufacturers who they are then turning around and deciding to give contracts to. I mean, it's just a fucking cesspool of corruption in this country. And it's all above board, apparently. It's all legal, apparently. I mean, we have like taken something that if it was done in any other country around the world, imagine if this was done in Cuba. Imagine if this was done in Venezuela, all right? Obviously, they have their own issues with corruption and dysfunction as well. But imagine if this was happening in any other country around the world that the United States deemed to be one of our political adversaries or opponents on the global stage. We would be calling this like a banana republic. I mean, we would be calling this, a blatantly corrupt. But here in the United States, we've effectively legalized this shit. I mean, with, Supreme Court decisions like Citizens United allowing infinite super PAC money to be flooded into these campaigns, with Congress refusing to even ban themselves from trading stocks, which is something that's semi on the table right now with Democrats, yet to be seen whether or not they're going to seriously make a legitimate push for that, to ban themselves from trading stocks. I have my, very big doubts that they are actually going to restrict their ability to do that. I mean, you have somebody like Nancy Pelosi leading the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives, and her husband is going behind the scenes and making all these nefarious stock trades where he's benefiting off of shit that the public doesn't have access to that information, right? Making these conveniently timed trades where he, saves millions of dollars when, some company is about to tank with their market evaluation based on legislation that's being brought forward by his own wife, Nancy Pelosi, as the Speaker of the House. I mean, it's just top to bottom rampant corruption that has just been legalized and normalized and baked within our system to the point where people think that this shit is normal, to the point where you have members of Congress who are, so anesthetized to this, where they don't even think twice about bringing this up in a public hearing and then laughing about it with the CEOs of some of these corporations. I mean, it's just disgusting levels of corruption in this country that are still going on right now, and just nothing is being done about it. I mean, you want to talk about why we can't get shit like a $15 minimum wage, why we can't get shit like Medicare for all or the Green New Deal or adequate material benefits to working class people's lives. It's because these motherfuckers, those bank CEOs and the rest of corporate America has a complete iron grip on our entire government and any legislation that is able to get passed or able to get pushed through Congress. And, we go back to that Princeton study that came out, I think back in 2015, 2014, where you see it on the graphs. I mean, whatever corporate America wants, whatever the billionaire class wants, has an almost direct correlation to what gets passed through Congress. And what the bottom 90% in this country want, what average working class people in this country want, has almost no correlation to what gets passed through Congress. So I don't know how you look at clips like that or look at the current situation with wealth disparity, with political power in this country, and not come to any other conclusion that we are not a functioning democracy, and we are in fact much closer to being something like a kleptocracy or an oligarchy at a fundamental level.
Everyone is saying good politic guy has the best politics. Believe me, no one does it like him. Believe me, everyone is saying